to introduce our speaker tonight, and he's promised he has more than a trail voice.
Yeah.
That he's loud.
He's going to speak up. This is Forrest Buffenbarger, and he was recommended, or his organization was recommended to us by Bobby Joe, who said she thought we ought to get to know these people better. He is an assistant manager at Gazelle Sports. He is from Kalamazoo, born and raised. He loves to trail run and hiking. And interestingly enough, he has been a graduate of the Institute for Massage Therapy. So he has a little talent there. But he's a Western Michigan grad who has a Bachelor's of Science in Exercise Science. He's going to talk about footwear on the trail, but he's also going to tell us a little bit, I hope, about a recent hike in Yosemite.
Yep.
So, I welcome Forrest.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. If you ever can't hear me, please just tell me, because I'll repeat it and speak up again. Thank you for inviting me. Really appreciate it. Thank you for the recommendation. So yeah, my name is Forrest, Kalamazoo native, born and raised. I love the outdoors. I grew up right next to the nature center, so I was there constantly throughout, since I was about this tall, all the way up to high school. Yeah, so I'm going to talk about shoes, apparel, basic information, what to look for and that sort of thing, throw in a couple of stories of my own adventures and whatnot. Just hoping that hopefully you guys can maybe glean some of my information, and when you're going to upgrade a piece of apparel or a hiking shoe or something like that, you'll have a little bit more knowledge on what to grab and what to look for. So first I'm going to start off with socks. I only brought one pair of socks with me. Does anybody want to like pass everything I talk about around and feel it or anything like that? Yes? Okay, I'm going to start this one here. Okay. Okay. They are clean. They're new.
I believe you.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. So socks, in my opinion, are one of the kind of underappreciated pieces of apparel that we get on almost an everyday basis, but it can really change a hike or a walk or a trail, anything from a uncomfortable experience to a good experience where you're not dealing with blisters or pain or something like that. So some key factors that you're looking for in a good set of socks is, main thing, needs to be wicking. Wicking is anything that's going to be hydrophobic, meaning it doesn't like water. It's going to try to expel it away from the body as fast as possible. Those materials generally come in like a poly or a poly blend or a wool or a mohair. Those are your top priority for fabric within a sock, and really for almost any apparel piece that you're going to be going with on a hike, on a hot day, cold day, rainy day, anything like that. That sock in particular is a smart wool, so it's made with wool. It does have like a nylon blend in it to be able to hold it together and keep it stretchy and elastic as well. You're looking for a sock that fits your foot well, isn't baggy in any specific area. When you're wearing a good sock like that, it's going to help to reduce the chance of blisters, of hot spots, irritation of really any kind. So that's socks in general, kind of weaving through here. Any questions in regards to socks? I mean, the one thing that I would recommend not to get would be cotton. Cotton's hydrophilic, meaning that it likes water, so it's just going to retain it. It's going to hold on to it. It might wick slightly, but it's not going to do a good job of trying to get it off the body as fast as it could. Determining your kind of length and width of a sock, or the depth of a sock, is totally personal, totally up to you. Personally, I go with crew socks, so something like that, where you're going to have more sock outside of the shoe or the boot that you're wearing. One, for protection, whether it's, a burr or ticks or something like that. It can just be that second line of defense, as well as it actually helps wick faster. So the more surface area that a sock has outside of the shoe or the boot that you're wearing, the faster it will actually pull that moisture out from, let's say, the toe area where there might not be as much breathability happening. So wearing that taller sock is actually very beneficial for keeping your feet cooler and drier, which seems counterproductive because of how tall it is, but it works that way, and it's awesome. So, any questions on socks? Cool. Sweet. And slow me down if I'm ever talking too fast or anything like that. Your phone shut off. I don't know if it needs to stay on for the microphone at all.
No, it's still on.
Okay, cool.
Just a screen shut off.
Sweet.
As a
Perfect.
matter of fact, the socks.
Yeah.
Do you believe in the 5 fingers and also this cooling material that when you sweat or it gets wet, it cools down? Do they have socks that do the same thing?
Yes. Yeah. So the cooling material is slightly different than just like a regular poly. It's going to have another substrate added to it to help cool when it gets wet. A regular poly blend, it's just the fabric in its nature and its DNA will wick it away. It'll try to get rid of it as fast as possible. So the cooling aspect to some clothing is a different, I believe it's actually a chemical compound that they put into the fabric.
Is it petroleum based?
I don't know. I don't know that.
That was Bobby Joe's question.
I'm not sure on that. I could look it up.
Petroleum based.
If she says it, it might be.
For the vegans.
Oh, yeah, that's fair. But with the 5-finger socks, totally up to you. If you can stand to have something in between your toes, there is some evidence to suggest that it's actually going to be better for your foot and the muscles within your foot because it's going to help display your toes out rather than pinch them together. I could go in another 10 minutes talking about the benefits of that, but that's counterproductive as well. But yes, if you want to wear those, you can. They do come in like a crew and a quarter crew length as well, for sure. Yeah, good question. Thank you. Appreciate it. Any other questions on socks or anything like that? Sweet. Can everybody hear me okay? A little louder? Okay, I will do my best. I'm going to go to pants next, pants and or shorts and that sort of thing. Choosing the pants, again, you want a wicking material, but other than that, probably the 2 main things that you're looking for are flexibility, mobility as one group, and then just the overall temperature, the ability to fluctuate within temperatures. So when you go out on a hike in Michigan, let's say, and it says it's going to be 70 degrees, and it says that it's not going to rain, it could be 80 degrees and it could rain. So when you're going out on that hike, you want pieces of apparel, pieces of gear that are going to be able to adjust with you in the weather that you might not be expecting. So having a solid pair of pants that's versatile is really nice. When we talk about tops, just after this, tops are a little bit more versatile per piece. So you can layer a top, whereas with a pant, ideally you just have one item on your lower region that will serve you throughout the temperature changes, that will serve you through a rain, and then all of a sudden just a hot spell, being in the shade, and then being in the sun, different things like that. So something like the Quandary pant from Patagonia, the material is really stretchy, it's going to move with you very nicely, it's going to be water resistant. Those are qualities in a pant that you're looking for. Does anybody want to pass these around? Sure. Go. So with a pant, again, flexibility, mobility, that's just to allow your bodies the full range of motion, whatever you're doing. If you have to step over a log or something like that, the last thing you want is a piece of apparel that's going to stop you from being able to do it, and then you have to get into an awkward position to get over the log. So it's just about having the right gear is really just about creating a better experience or possibility for a better experience than what you might have if you didn't have that item. Any questions on pants? We're good, cool. Yes.
The pants then transform into shorts.
Yeah, convertibles. Yep.
Is that anything wrong with that?
Mm-mm. So that is a great thing that I should have brought up. Convertible pants are a great hiking option because you can zip them off into shorts. So if you're traveling in, Arizona or somewhere where you might need it in the early morning, but then it's going to be super hot during the day and you got to unzip and then go with some shorts. That's a great option. The one thing that I will say to look out for is to make sure that the zippers, so they generally happen right below the knee or right above the knee, that the zippers have both a flap on the outside of the pant but also on the inside of the pant. I've known some people that have gotten some that have no flap on the inside, and then it caused some chafing and that sort of thing when they're out on a hike. So just making sure that you have that extra layer of protection. But yes, convertible pants, if you can find them, They are great. They're really versatile. They give you the great opportunity for some temperature variation, which is really nice in places where you need that. Thank you. And then we're gonna go to tops. Tops, again, kind of what I mentioned. It's more about the versatility of the layering. I call it the layering effect. I preach this for runners in Michigan for winter. If you don't run with layers in Michigan in winter, you're going to be in trouble eventually. So same goes for hiking, and even more so even on any hike, really, because again, Michigan, if you're Michigan, you can have no rain in the forecast and it will start raining, and you can have tons of rain in the forecast and it won't rain at all. So being prepared on your hikes, again, is going to help you have a better hike. It's going to help you be more happy, enjoy what you're doing. So the layering effect, to get on to what I was saying, is just being able to, have multiple pieces. So I'm going to grab these pieces. So I have a short sleeve tech top for women's. It's just going to be breathable. It's going to be very light. I'm going to pass it on. It's going to be your first layer for sweat resistance, essentially. That piece, if you're wearing it right against your skin, is going to be the first thing that's trying to get that sweat off your body. So you really want to make sure that your first layer is going to be, again, a poly blend, a wool blend, something like that, where it is your wicking. Ideally, it's a little bit more tight to the body, because that's going to help it perform to its full efficiency. And then, depending on the weather, I know tonight does not replicate it, but if it were, 30, 40 degrees or something like that, having that as your base layer, throwing on a better sweater or something similar where it's not the thickest sweater that you could have, but it definitely is going to keep you quite warm while you're moving. And again, it's going to be made out of product that's going to wick well. So it's going to complement that, and it's going to work together, hand in hand. There's that. And then, let's say on this evening where it's 30 degrees and you got your base layer, you got your mid layer, it's going to snow or it's going to rain. You throw on your torrent shell, which is going to be your waterproof, your outer. It's going to help protect you from the elements. And that completes your 3 combo. That's the layer effect. It's the idea that you have these multiple pieces. So you're hiking in the 30-degree weather, and then all of a sudden, somehow magically it's Michigan and it's 40, 50 degrees, and you want to take off your better sweater. You just keep your t-shirt, your base layer on, you throw the torrent shell over the top, so you still have another outer layer that's keeping you sheltered from the elements and giving you some warmth, but you pop your better sweater off and you fold it up or you pack it into itself. That one actually, I believe, does pack into its pocket there, so that is a very good a way to prepare yourself for anything that's coming at you via the elements, is just having a layering idea of, okay, today I have, rain, so I definitely need my rain jacket, and it's anywhere from 70 degrees to 80 degrees, and then you kind of manipulate what you really want to grab based off of that. To give you an example from one of my trips that Mary mentioned, I was in Yosemite in early March, and went into that thinking it was going to be warmer than it was, and we hiked up the 4-mile path, or 4-mile trail there, right kind of next to Glacier Point, and we got about halfway up, so about a mile and a half up, and there was snow that was about thigh deep, and we had almost this identical, I had a t-shirt, I had a better sweater, and a different rain jacket, but a rain jacket. So I went from being very warm on the base level, where I was literally just wearing my t-shirt and that, and I had to throw on my better sweater, and it kept my body temperature right in that kind of nice zone where I wasn't sweating, I wasn't, dripping sweat, but I wasn't cold either, and it kept me able to fluctuate my body temperature within a good range on that hike. And I almost fell off the mountain, but it was all good. So it was a good thing. But that's just one example of how layering can really benefit you, because you really don't know what to expect. If you're dealing with elevation, that can change the game by a lot within a matter of 30 minutes. So yeah.
How breathable is this?
So I would say it's not that breathable.
Okay.
There are zippers under the armpit, so
Okay.
that's one way that even if it is raining, you're not risking getting that wet and keeping the breathability. I will say that waterproofing has advanced in technology over the last 3 years in particular quite a bit, and it's gotten a lot better. It's still not something that you would wear on a day like today just for fun, because it would get pretty steamy in there.
Right.
But it is getting a lot better with being able to be a little bit more breathable while maintaining the water resistance and the waterproofing that it has, for sure. Thank you. Any questions over tops or the layering? My term, the layering effect. You can use it if you want to, not trademarked or anything. Any questions over apparel in general? Yes.
What type of rain gear is being offered now as
Could you repeat the questions, please?
Yeah. So what type of rain gear is being offered to walkers, hikers, runners? Are you saying specifically at Gazelle or just in general, in the broad waterproofing, broad world? So I would say majority of rain gear right now, there's probably a couple different categories. You have like the torrent shell, which is what's getting passed around, and that is your, I would say, entry level waterproof jacket, and you could get a pant that's very, very similar to that. There's a lightweight version. You're going to be spending probably another $100 more or so, but it will feel quite a bit lighter than that. I mean, it's going to, if you go from a regular tent to a lightweight tent, it's about that same difference, just in a jacket form. So those are two, and then there's like a really high performance rainproofing, which is going to be lacking the breathability that we mentioned for sure, but it's going to be probably the most waterproof. You know, if you wore the torrent shell, guesstimating 5-6 hours in a complete downpour, it's going to wet out eventually. But the really, really high end, very durable waterproof, that one is going to be waterproof till it dies, pretty much. How breathable? Not that breathable. There are zippers underneath the arm that could help give you a little bit more airflow, but I wouldn't wear it on a day like today. Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions on layering tops? Yes.
Just,
Yeah.
in our day, we always talked about Goretex.
Yes. Yeah.
Is that still?
Goretex is still, they are one of the tops right now, actually.
Still? Okay.
So they're one of the brands that within the last 3 years made some really big jumps in their technology and found ways to, how do I describe this? The way that the rep described it to me was basically, they have an outer membrane of material, the Goretex, and then they have a 3-layer kind of system. So you got the membrane, and then the 2 other layers are actually trying to push air back through the membrane, and somehow they're allowing it to go out, kind of like, I picture it like this, where it's small enough on the top to not let water in, but because of the angle that they put the membrane at, it allows air to escape. That's kind of the best way that I can describe it, that he described it to me, but that is something that is relatively new in the waterproofing world, where you're actually being able to get
it's still a good
breathability.
brand to be looking at.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. They work with, so they still sell their own product. It's a smaller selection. It's definitely a little bit pricier, but they do work with a lot of other companies as well. So this shoe is actually Goretex as well. So,
Wow.
yeah.
I have heard that,
Thank you.
and I may be wrong, that Goretex in footwear is not necessarily that great a deal because it gets plugged up. It starts out really good, and then it gets plugged up.
It can, definitely.
That still an
I'm
issue?
not going to argue with you on that one. Yeah.
Okay.
I would say if you were hiking anywhere muddy, I would make sure to clean my shoes afterwards with a brush. And if you did that, not that you want to do that, but if you did that, I personally believe that the Goretex would last a lot longer than it does when you're just wearing your shoes over and over and over again. And it also depends on the material that they use with the Goretex. So the main form of Goretex within a shoe is literally they just put the membrane in the shoe. So the outside, the aesthetic of it, isn't the Goretex, and that's kind of the issue because the water and the debris and everything will actually go through the outside aesthetic fabric and get caught in between, and then it just slowly wears out the Goretex.
Okay.
Yep.
There isn't any way to reconstitute it.
Not with Goretex. You could spray like a DWR coating. You could definitely like take whatever shoe and you're like, man, I feel like my toes are getting wet, and then just reapply a DWR coating to it or something along those lines. Generally that works really well. Again, I would clean the shoe
But it's
before.
not going to be working as a Goretex, so.
Correct. Yep. Because the Goretex is literally, if that shoe gets around you, if you open it up, it's a membrane. Well, you can kind of see, this is Keen's version. So that gray right there, that is just a membrane that they put within the shoe. So the outer really isn't the waterproof portion, the inner is. Great question. Great question.
All these new fabrics
Yep.
and all that,
Mm-hmm.
machine wash them cold
Mm-hmm.
and don't dry them. But is it going to wear out these newer fabrics quicker than other clothing? And do you definitely recommend like 7th generation or Woolite? Because I get dirty out in the field. That's why I always buy cheap.
Yeah. I don't have a preference between 7th generation and Woolite. Well, maybe. I would go 7th generation probably, personally. Washing cold, if you can hang dry, that's ideal for most of the material. So like the better sweater, I would hang dry. I know people that don't, they just throw it in the dryer and it works totally fine. I personally think that the quality of the material is going to go down if you are drying it, just in the way that it's stitched together and everything like that. So a hang dry would probably be ideal for products. If you do have anything that's waterproof, I wouldn't use a machine to wash it. If you needed to wash it, I would hand wash it just because you're gonna do less damage to it. And that could be, if it's just a little spot where you got ash or like a mud spot or anything like that, literally just an old toothbrush and something like that. But I wouldn't, if you're dealing with a Goretex jacket or a Goretex set of pants or something like that, I wouldn't wash those. I would just wash them by hand. Because you're gonna, if you want the waterproofing for as long as possible, that's gonna be the best option. Was that both questions, or was there another question in there? Okay, cool. Any other questions while we're right in the middle of tops and that sort of thing? I'm gonna move on to shoes next, so. Sweet. Shoes. We got shoes, so I'll just start handing these out just so you can look at them. I'm actually gonna keep these.
What is 7th generation?
Oh, it's a beautiful company. I'll tell you later. They've got all kinds of earth-friendly, small family businesses now.
So, passing out the shoes. Most of the ones that I brought today are a true hiking shoe that we carry. There's a few trail running shoes that we carry as well. The Superior over there and then the Speed Goat over there are technically into that trail. Technically into that trail runner versus the trail hiker. The biggest difference between those two categories is going to be a full foot support. So there's a lot of confusion right now between support and stability in the running, walking, hiking world. I use the term support as full foot. So in the shoe, in its nature, it's going to have a denser foam. It might be a straight last. It's going to provide both torsion support, so lateral, it's not going to let your foot twist in a manner, as well as just glide through the toe. It's going to provide support for the whole foot. It's not going to be a light foam, it's going to be a denser foam. Whereas stability, in the true term from when it was started, is for arch. Arch support is really arch stability. So stability should be referenced with arches and just the stopping of pronation or helping stop of pronation. Support is pretty much for the whole foot. It shouldn't describe anything to do with the arch. It should be the whole foot. So just to put that out there as a brief kind of intro. The hikers are definitely going to be a stiffer shoe. They're going to be more solid on the bottom. The tread patterns can vary, but they're going to be, again, more supportive for the whole foot. They're not going to allow you to twist, whereas a trail runner, is going to lack that support. They're going to be more focused on being light, being more poppy, so the EVA or the TPU foam that's put in them is going to be a lot more responsive. Is one better than the other one? I would say that is fully up to you guys. You know, it's finding what fits your foot the best, what feels the best. A common thing that I get asked is, how do you describe or define a good fit? And it's going to vary for a couple people, but I would say majority, there's really kind of three main things that you're looking for. You're looking for your heel not to slide out the back. If there's a teeny tiny bit of sliding, especially if it's a brand new shoe, I would say that's okay, because generally that small insert that's in there is going to kind of get compressed, and you won't notice that heel sliding out at all after the first week or so. So if it's just a micro little bit, then I'm not worried about it. But if you are feeling that heel sliding out the back of a shoe, generally right off the bat, that's a no-go. The other thing is half a thumb width to a full thumb width in the toe. Generally that's from your big toe, but if your middle toe is a little bit longer, then I'll go from your longest toe. Yep.
I have an issue with, I have a wide foot, but which makes it necessary to buy a larger size than the length would have.
Yep.
And I've got a pair of boots right now that just drive me nuts because the heel slides all the time.
Yep.
But on the other hand, they're tight in the toe box. I don't know how to resolve that.
It's a trickier shoe to find is a wider toe box, especially when you're getting into like a true wide or an extra wide or something like that. But that is going to be your best bet, looking into like getting those 4Es, the extra wides in the shoes, because it's going to increase the volume of the shoe, but it's also going to increase that width, and that's what you need. You could also look at companies like Ultra or companies like Topo. Those are shoes that are notorious as a brand. They already put that wide toe box in there. The Superior, when that comes around, it's not their widest one. It's actually right behind you. It's not their widest one, but they do create like a really wide toe box.
How can you narrow up the heel area though?
The heel's tricky. You can try different lace ties. So you can do a lace lock, which is where you come back through a second eyelet there.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, so that is going to pull the heel forward, rather than when you do a regular tie on your shoes, you're just pushing down on the top of the foot there. But if you do a lace lock, it's going to pull the heel, the fabric, forward and kind of snug that up. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. So it's definitely trial and error to kind of find that. But the one thing that I'll preach to everybody and to you is you got to try the shoe on and make sure it fits. And if it doesn't fit, I wouldn't be happy until I found a shoe that fit. Which is, it's hard when you're going shoe to shoe to shoe to shoe to shoe because you got a wider toe box, but there are shoes that are designed for that, and they're out there for sure. So
there are also heel cups.
There are. Yep.
That if they're fitted properly, they'll take up space, but you got to be careful.
Yep. Yeah, the heel cups will take up a little bit of space. They'll give you some cushioning too. That'd be something to try. It might be too much volume, and that's another, it's a balance, because you can't get so much under the heel that it lifts you out as well. So yeah, good question. Yeah.
So I'm the opposite. I have this very narrow foot, which means I can't buy shoes in the United States of America.
Yeah.
So, what brands does Gazelle
Cool. The question was, what's the opposite? What's for a narrow foot? Because that's a very similar boat. Just to give you both a heads up of grace, for whatever reason, narrows and wides are disappearing. Because brands aren't making as much money, they're basically going, well, the narrows don't sell as much, so let's cut the line. Or the wides, we don't have enough money to make enough of them. Or last year's quota wasn't enough, so we're just gonna stop this shoe from being made in a wide. So that is it's a predicament that people are in all over, for sure. But to answer the question for what we carry, Asics tends to be fairly narrow throughout the heel, and a little bit in the toe box. Nikes as well. I will say that Brooks, so the Brooks Adrenaline, the Brooks Ghost, those shoes are coming in narrow right now. You can't necessarily find a narrow in every single size, but it's a high majority of the shoes are being made in narrows for them. So that's a great company to look into. New Balance is making some narrows right now as well. So I would try to find. Yeah. So this is a great example of a different tie. Not necessarily the tie that you would do, but this is called a ladder lace, and so it's for a higher arch. If your feet are ever going numb in your shoes, a lot of the time it can be from a pressure point that's generally right around here in the shoe, and it's just too much pressure via the lace. So getting if your feet are going numb, this is a great tie. You keep it the same way. You untie it to wherever you feel like the pressure is being applied, and then you just go through, skip one. You can, if it's a small enough area, you can come right back through. Generally, you're going to skip one though. Come right through, and then you're going right back to the X pattern. And this is going to still hold the foot really nice and tight. You could throw in a lace lock in the back here if you'd like to, because that's going to, again, snug that heel up. It's going to pull that fabric forward. And afterwards I can show you how to do that lace lock, because it's fairly simple. But yeah, this is a great option for high arches, for sure.
Close up.
For the last 40 years, I found to take up that extra volume, because the shoes are oversized to get the length, is the insole that I buy, the
Yeah.
insert. So it cost me another $30, $40 on top of it. But at least I can wear the shoe.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, that's another thing. So if you are battling with too much volume, too much space in the shoe, thank you. Too much space in the shoe, you can get an insert. I would make sure that your foot can deal with an insert. If you have a really high arch, not even a really high arch, if you tend to walk on the lateral side of your foot, if your shoes are almost always wearing out on the lateral side fully, not just the lateral heel, almost everybody strikes in the lateral heel. But if you, from the middle of the shoe all the way to the toe, is worn out on that lateral side, I wouldn't recommend going with an insert, because this is the whole idea is this arch is going to push you back that way, and so if you're already out here, it's just going to cause you more pain. So wouldn't recommend that. But if you're not in that boat and you are struggling with volume, you could throw an insert in there, and it probably isn't going to be too much of a detriment to you, for sure. Yeah. Yes.
In the latter years of my hiking, I got away from boots and were more into sandals, and really loved them because of the lightweight and
Yeah.
the hug.
Definitely.
I mean, good sandals. I wasn't hiking flip-flop stuff.
Yeah.
But I wonder what your feeling is on sandals that you have available.
If they work for you, kudos. And it depends on the environment that you're in and
But I
whatnot.
wasn't hiking in the Rockies.
Yeah. But the Keen Newport is a pretty well used hiking sandal. It's got the toe, protective toe, so you're covered there.
Yeah, I use it.
It does have a decent arch to it as well if you do need some arch support, some cushioning to it. The outsole is fairly aggressive, so it's not like you're going to be going into just a really smooth bottom sandal either. Chacos are really common amongst
That's
people
right.
traveling.
I used those two.
Yep. Those are probably the two most used that I've seen. Teva does create some hiking options. Personally, I haven't seen any on people's feet out hiking, but I do know that they create them as an option. Not sure how high quality they are or not, but yeah, I saw you had a question.
I'm a mild overpronator, so
Yep.
I have to deal with that for road running shoes.
Mhm.
I've asked this question various times and got different answers.
Okay.
Is it a concern in trail shoes?
Pronation. So I would say there's less concern on a trail because the ground is softer. So a lot of the I could go like 5 hours on just this topic. I won't. But pronation has a really bad name to it. Pronation is actually a natural process that the body does. So everybody lands lateral, they come in, they slightly pronate, and they go off on the toe. Now overpronation is where you really go, bam, cave in quite a bit. The majority of the issue is force reduction. You know, when you're hitting, when you're collapsing, it's not necessarily what the knee's doing and the hip's doing. Those are definitely things to consider, but a lot of it's the force reduction and what's coming back up into the body. And if your arch is flattened out, the foot, the arch ideally is one of your first defenses to create the absorption, the shock, and your knee is a big portion of that. But if you're on a softer surface, it's not as much force reduction coming up through the body, essentially. So overpronation, essentially, when you get into the drastic aspects of it, is really just your bones are not in the right place, so your tendons and your muscles aren't in the right place, so your body can't absorb everything that it should, and then it causes a lot of tension. When you really get down to the nitty-gritty of it, that's essentially what it kind of breaks down to. So it's on trails, not as big of a deal. If you wanted to, you could throw an insert into a trail shoe or a hiking boot and that sort of thing, and it will provide you some support. No trail shoes, there used to be, but for the last 8 years, there has been no major company creating a trail shoe or a hiking boot with arch stability or arch support, depending on what you want to say, out there. Because most of the time it was a dual density posting, which is just a denser foam that they put on the medial side. And as soon as people started using those, we saw a lot of ankles break and a lot of feet get really hurt because they stepped on a rock on that medial side, and that denser foam was not going to squish at all. So your ankle went out to the side real quick, real fast. So that was a no-no that they realized pretty quick and stopped making those. So an insert is your only option for arch stability. But again, debatable, up to you. If you feel pain while you're out there, maybe. If you don't, I would say it's probably okay. Yeah, personally.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, for sure. Yes.
What's the idea of this extra hole?
So that extra hole you can use for a lace lock. You can use it for a couple different styles of tying, but a lace lock is where you're going back through, you have it laced up just how you have it. Actually, I'll do this really quick. We have a couple people. So, I don't know if anybody will be able to see this or not. This is the lace lock. You got it tied up regularly. We have the lateral lace, which is an extra, but we have it regular. You're gonna go back through each eyelet. Same side as the side you came out of. So you do that, you got your bunny ears now, and then you take the opposite side string and you pull it down through your bunny ear. So down through the bunny ear, and take this side. I'm gonna tighten that one up all the way. Down through the bunny ear, tighten it up all the way. And then from there, basically when you tighten this up, it's pulling that fabric forward through the heel rather than just pushing straight down. So that's one of the more common ways to lace with that second pull back there. It's gonna help with the heel sliding out. It's gonna help reduce pressure on the toes. So if you did happen to have a shoe that was just a slight bit too small and you feel like your toe might be rubbing up against the front, you could definitely do that tie as well to help kind of hold your foot back. Good question. Any other questions on shoes or anything? Yes.
Shoe repair.
Shoe repair.
When I was a kid, I'd wear through tennis shoes so fast, so I get shoe goo
Yeah.
to patch it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still have it?
Yep.
And is there,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
in store?
We have some shoe glue in store. We don't have a bunch. We have
Goo.
one option.
G-O-O.
Oh, not the goo. We do not have the goo.
Yeah, the old goo filler.
Yes, we do.
And
not
then
have
do
goo.
you have, so glue,
Mhm.
because right now, instead of going to cobbler, it's just starting, and
Yep.
it's happening on a lot of sandals,
Mhm. Glue.
like Tevas.
Yep.
So you have a special glue for shoes, not just
You
I
could
don't know,
use super
whatever
glue or
it is,
something
eight
like that.
glue, crazy
Yeah.
glue.
You could use that. The shoe glue, I honestly don't know the chemical compound to it, and like if it's that much different than super glue or anything like that. It feels like super glue to me. It's very sticky.
Real small.
It's in a tube like that big.
Okay, to seal it up, because it's not ready for the cobbler.
Yeah.
But if I
Yeah.
wait long enough.
No, that'll just seal it right up. It's very common in soccer boots, actually, because they'll rip the whole upper off the bottom of the shoe, and then they'll just glue it right back on.
Oh, we used to do that too.
Mhm. Yep.
Soccer.
Yeah. Yeah. Any
Is
shoe-
there resources for information on the lacing techniques that you're talking about?
YouTube. Yep. Yep.
Everything's
You're a
on
star.
YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's hiking. There's Steve. There's hiking articles if you prefer to read, like Hiker Magazine.
Yeah, true.
Just look up lacing techniques and there'll be articles or videos.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm gonna wrap. Oh, go ahead.
This is
Yep.
more of a plug than a question.
Okay.
I'm a retired physician
Okay.
and I had a family physician, so I dealt with plantar fasciitis all the time. People that were just totally disabled with it.
Yep.
And of course, of course, my biggest bug is that they come in with not the shoes they wore all that. You'll have to go back
Yep.
and bring the shoes in. Virtually 99.99% of the time, absolutely no arch in the shoe. It
Oh,
looked
yeah.
like it on the outside, the decoration. And so as the final and ongoing part of the treatment of plantar fasciitis was a really good quality art support. And these are the people I would send my patients to because their salespeople were well trained. They knew what they were doing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I never had anybody that I sent there that didn't get the insert that they needed.
Thank you.
I
Appreciate
really
that.
appreciate it.
Yeah. I see plantar fasciitis probably 5 times a day. And anywhere from like, oh, my arch is bugging me to I feel like I can't walk at all.
Right.
You know, like complete.
Coming on their hands and knees.
Yes, exactly. Pretty much. Yeah. Cool. I'm going to wrap it up because I know it's been pushing. Yeah. Wicking material for any apparel. It's going to be a big key. It's going to help you enjoy your movement a lot better. And try stuff on. You know, most retailers now, especially through COVID, have realized that the buyer dealt with a lot of online, and it's not that great a lot of the time. Whether your package gets stolen or you get the wrong size or it just doesn't work for you, it's a lot nicer to go into a store, try it on, mess with it, feel it, make sure it works for you. And in my opinion, that's what you need to do in order to get it. It doesn't matter if your best friend or your mom tells you, hey, this is the best thing ever, go get it. You got to make sure it works for you. So, yeah, thank you for your time. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Appreciate it.